Tonight is Monday, February 25th, 2019. This is the regular city council meeting for the city of St. Peter. It is 7 o'clock p.m. Would all please join in the Pledge of Allegiance. Sorry, I forgot to call meeting to order. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I know Barb would have reminded me later if I... Everyone should have a copy of the agenda. Is there any changes or corrections to the agenda? If not, is there a motion for approval?
Make a motion to approve.
Ed first, Jerry second. All in favor of the agenda as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Agenda is approved. Next, we have the minutes from our February 11th, 2019 meeting. Those minutes appear on pages 4 and 5. Are there any changes or corrections to those minutes? If not, is there a motion for approval?
Make a motion to approve. Second.
All in favor of the minutes as written, please signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Those minutes are approved. First up tonight, we have a public hearing. And Todd, you want to give us the background for the rules?
Just a little quick one. You've had the same rules here now for a couple of years, but first is the staff to do a presentation and identify the issue of the hearing, the reason for the hearing. In this instance, this is a hearing on an action that the city council's taken, so there's not really an applicant in this instance, but if there was an applicant, the applicant would have a chance to address the council on issues of fact, and there's opportunity for public comment, and that is available tonight as a part of this hearing, public comment on the small cities development grant. We ask that speakers be limited to 5 minutes from the public. They present factual evidence, and the council will listen to testimony and doesn't always engage with those folks. Sometimes there's information, and as there is in most instances is tonight, there's action later in the agenda for the council to contemplate. Gal, that's probably enough for rules. I'll turn it over to Russ and Byron to give us the information for the hearing.
First, before we do that, we will open the public hearing for the Small Cities Development Program grant application on Monday, February 25th, 2019 at 7:04 p.m. All right, Russ.
Mayor Zeman, members of the City Council, tonight you're here to hold a public hearing and expected that later on you will act on submission of a Small Cities Development Program grant to the Minnesota Department of Employment and Economic Development, seeking funds to provide for the rehabilitation and renovation of owner-occupied structures within a targeted area of town. The project essentially began in 2016 when we had the graduate students from the Urban Regional Studies Institute at Minnesota State University complete a housing condition survey of all of the single-family homes within the entire community. The homes then were rated based upon their perceived condition based on a sidewalk survey. They collected that data, and that data showed that there were perhaps some pockets of houses that were in less than pristine condition and are in need of some type of an investment or weatherization or other life safety improvements. To that end, in November, you would authorize the submission of a pre-application, which was then reviewed by the Department of Employment and Economic Development, and it was determined to be marginally competitive, which many of them were. And then based upon some input that DEED provided to the applicant or our consultant who we've hired to bring in to help us with this, they've provided some recommended changes which you then reviewed at your last workshop session. At this time, Mr. Mayor, the process would require a public hearing, so that's what we're here. I'm going to turn things over to Byron Jost from Byron is a consultant with Minnesota Valley Action Council out of Mankato. Byron's been a long-time supporter of St. Peter and actually worked after the post-tornado recovery administering some grants on behalf of Region 9, and then we've worked with him in his capacity as a private consultant since then. So I'll turn it over to Byron, and he's provided you with an outline of what he intends to present on tonight.
Okay, thanks, Russ. Yeah, if you would just refer to the outline. The purpose of this public hearing is just to provide public input on the application process. As Russ said, the grant application request is going to go to the Minnesota Department of Employment and Economic Development. It's going to be for a total of just under $600,000. and it's specifically to request federal funds to help low-income residents make necessary improvements to their home. If you would take a look quickly on the second page where there's a map identifies the target area that Russ was referring to. It was cut down in order to be more competitive from the preliminary application that we submitted earlier. The yellow part on the bottom is the primary target area, and the secondary area is just above that in a darker shade. The process is going to be that if you get funded, we will try to get 21 housing projects out of this lower primary target area, and then if we still haven't gotten those 21 after a certain amount of time, we would go after folks that live in the upper brown part of that area. Going back to the summary, we talked about this being in a targeted area of the city only. It's not citywide. And Russ was saying that it was based on a study that done a couple years ago by MSU students, and we reduced that in November. I think the thing to remember is that the goal of this is to satisfy a federal objective of benefit to low and moderate income persons. That's the way that you can access these funds, is to benefit LMI people. So everything you do as you administer the grant is for that benefit purpose. The goal here is to rehabilitate 21 homes, which means bringing them up to code, housing quality standards and building code standards. It's not a remodeling program. It's to get houses up to basic livability standards. Timeline is, if you get funded, you'll be notified sometime next summer, and then you have about 30 months from there to complete the program. Real quickly, the budget, we're talking about an average of probably around $25,000 per project. And if we do 21 projects, that comes up to a little over $500,000 of owner rehab funds from the Small Cities program. There's a dollar amount it'll be $73,000 to administer those funds, for a total of just under $600,000 from the Small Cities program. The City Council and the Mayor and the staff are aware of a commitment from the city for $100,000. If we allocate the money the way we expect to, based upon the 21, we would probably draw down about $85,000 of that in this first phase of the program. Anyway, the total investment in St. Peter, including all of that, was $683,500. Now, I know the council and the mayor are aware of the program design, but I just want to go over it real quickly for anybody of the public wanting to understand the program. Every applicant will be eligible for a 0% interest, 10-year deferred loan, which is 100% forgiven after 10 years, unless the owner sells or moves out of that home within that 10 years. If they do that, they just pay back that full amount, whatever they borrowed, back to the city. Okay? And then the city council and the mayor and the staff are also aware of the city's leverage funds will take the form of a 0% interest, 10-year installment loan repaid back to the city on a monthly basis. And they'll be given out based upon a project cost with $1,000 from the city based upon $5,000 of total project cost. So that's it in a nutshell. Any questions about what the program does, where it's being offered? I'd be glad to answer any questions.
We can do that now, otherwise we will revisit this in a little bit. But it's up to you guys if you have any questions now.
I have questions, but
You wanna
doesn't
wait
matter to
till-
me when we ask.
Why don't we wait till later, we'll get the public hearing done, and then when we come to the resolution and that, we'll get into the more nitty-gritty of it.
Great.
All right.
Mr. Mayor, as part of this, we're supposed to discuss the citizen participation plan that's been developed, which was handed out tonight. It would require that we hold a public hearing, which we are doing this evening. The notices have been provided, published, and posted. I also posted notices then at the banks. All citizens tonight will have an opportunity to speak, and we did not expect a large percentage of non-English speaking individuals, so we have not provided for interpretation services. The public documents will be maintained in the Office of the Community Development Director and will be available for public review during normal hours of operation. Special communications aid can be made to persons upon their request. For instance, if they requested copies of the material in Braille or in some other format. Also on the back, it indicates that should we receive written complaints or comments or grievances, that the city then would respond in writing within 15 working days, and I would expect that response would be formulated by City Administrator Prafke and myself. Also, Mr. Mayor, as part of the application, there's a conflict of interest statement that indicates that no members of the council have a conflict of interest going forward with the program. If you did have an owner-occupied structure within the district, you would not be able to participate in the programs. So.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we will have, I guess we don't really have an applicant. We've just kind of covered that with the staff. Next, we will have an opportunity for the public to make any comments on this public hearing. And seeing no one, we will close the public hearing at 7:13 on Monday, February 25th, 2019. Next, we'll go back to our regular meeting. The next thing up is visitors. Excuse me. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak to the council on any agenda item? Seeing no one, is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak to the council on any matter whatsoever? Mr. Arpin, come on up, identify yourself, and
Is it working
welcome.
here, or is it just me?
It's probably just you, you know, I mean, I see you're double parked out there, so.
You're all supposed to be here before I showed up.
Yeah.
I appreciate this. Mr. Mayor, council members, Mr. Prafke, Ms. Luker, and of course, Mr. Grion. I actually wrote this down so I don't get off task here. Thank you for allowing me to speak to you this evening. If you haven't heard, I've turned in my 2-week notice, and my final shift will be this Friday, March 1st at 5 p.m. I wanted to thank you and your predecessors for placing your trust in an Army veteran and reservist 28 years and 7 months ago. The Gulf War was looming, and yet I was hired. Brad Coleman took a chance on me. I wanted to let you know that this badge, this uniform and gun that were entrusted to me have been my symbols of the trust and faith the citizens have placed in me. I started my career to make a difference, to help out the poor, the weak, and the bullied. I found out that I was doing more than that. I represented all the citizens, even those that chose to break the law. I had to arrest their behavior, cite them, or take them to jail. I believed I earned the respect of our citizens, those I arrested, and my peers in doing just what I started out to do, serve the community, the community of St. Peter. I am honored and humbled by the support this community has always shown to the St. Peter Police Department. I have worked with some of the finest officers, dispatchers, jailers, deputies, troopers, and conservation officers. The public is blessed to have such an outstanding group of people serving them each and every day, 24/7, 365 days. I am thankful that I survived my time and am able to retire with my health and my family. 145 Minnesota officers and many more in the United States were not so lucky to reach retirement. Their sacrifices are reminders that this is not a safe profession. I am very blessed. I have seen things I cannot unsee. I've worked rotating shifts, overtime, holidays, and weekends. I've missed weddings, reunions, family gatherings, and church services. I chose this life and couldn't be happier. I wish my father was still alive to see this day. I wish my mother had her memory so she could be here. I know both of them are very proud of me. I just wanted to say thank you all for the trust you placed in me, I'm honored to retire in good standing as a police officer from the St. Peter Police Department. God bless. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Dave, you want to come back and sit down here for a second? You know, you came here and you speak to us on not on an item, but on something, so I want to ask you some questions.
Uh-oh,
What are you going to do next?
nothing.
I know you're involved with the Legion.
Yes, Your Honor. My first goal is to figure out how to work the timer on my coffee pot. With my rotating shift, I've never been able to fully utilize it, so that's my first goal. My second goal is to be a more devoted grandparent to my 9 and 7-year-old grandsons who live up in the cities. And the thing that seems to be occupying most of the people's thoughts is on the Whiskey River property with the American Legion. I can safely say on record, I have a gift committee that's deciding what to do with that, and as soon as they have a final option, we'll present it to the Post and they will know what's going on. But that'll keep me fairly busy.
Well, I've always been told that you have to make your goals attainable, otherwise they don't mean anything. But knowing you as I do, Dave, over the last few years especially, I know that whether your goals are low or high, you will achieve them, because your character is really transmitted that's your ability to do that.
Thank you, Your
And
Honor.
we're very, very fortunate to have you here for all of these years.
Thank you.
Does anybody else have any parting questions for Dave? I hate to say the word parting, but
I was asked, Your Honor, to stay on the Night to Unite committee
okay.
as a volunteer.
sure.
So you'll be hearing more about that event as it comes up. Rumor has it they want me to go in the dunk tank this year. So I guess now it's on the public record that I'm available for that.
All right.
I
Thanks
just-
again, Dave. I
Dave.
appreciate it.
Please. I still have a button.
Oh,
No, no, thank you very much.
Dave, I'd like to thank
Wish
you
we had
too
more
for
people here.
working with you for many years.
Be safe out there.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. We will, after that, we will move on to the rest of our meeting. Next thing up is the consent agenda. Consent agenda begins in detail on page 7 and concludes with the resolution on page 22, and includes the following budgeted purchases in excess of $10,000. First up is to Automatic Systems for a SCADA system upgrade for $78,074. To Bolton and Mank for 2019 sidewalk project engineering for $13,300. The following license to the Redmond Club for gambling for 408 South 3rd, plus the regular schedule of disbursements for February 7th, 2019 through February 21st, 2019. Are there any questions or comments on the consent agenda? Roger.
Can we just remind the public what the SCADA system is, since it's a large amount?
Oh, this is a upgrade to software which is no longer service that runs the water plant, essentially. It does a lot of different things, but the biggest task, of course, is making sure that potable water is pumped to the towers and filters and all those kind of things. The current system that we have runs on Windows XP, and so that's no longer going to be serviced, and so we have to upgrade to Windows 10 version of that, and that's the price tag here, $78,000.
So, very crucial system.
Very important system.
Anyone else? Question, comment? The resolution approving the consent agenda appears on page 22. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second it.
Any other questions or comments? Call the roll, please.
Mayor Zeman.
Aye.
Member Pfeiffer.
Aye.
Member Paris.
Aye.
Member Johnson.
Aye.
Consent agenda is approved. Next, we have unfinished business, which there is none. Then we'll move to new business. And the first thing we have is what we had the public hearing on for the grant application for the housing project. Todd and Byron.
Okay.
Todd, did I say Todd? Todd, Byron,
Now
and
we're
Russ.
almost even.
It's cold
I think
out.
I called you by another mayor's name a few times, so.
It's been a while.
That's all right. Actually,
Sorry to insult you, Todd.
we get confused on the street once in a while even. So, Mr. Mayor, members of the city council, we don't intend to go through the full presentation again, but we'd certainly be very pleased to answer any questions that the council may have.
All right, Roger?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. When I'm adding things up, 21 houses times 25,000 is the 525, right, like we've been shown. The 73,500 is the fee, basically. The city commitment doesn't add up in there to the total. I guess basically what's happening with the city commitment, that 85,000, I'm not seeing in the packet, or maybe I missed it, where that's being used.
What that money's being used for, Roger, is that what you're asking?
Yes.
Okay.
Byron, please.
Yep. I didn't bring that other breakdown, but basically what's happening is, it gets a little bit complex, but imagine if you're a family that lives at your family income is 30% or less than the area median income. And then everybody else who's applying for these funds is between 30% and 80%. And so everybody below 80% is eligible for this program. We instituted, at the advice of DEED, instituted a change in the program design that says that we're going to treat everybody at 30% or less of area median income. We're going to treat them so that they're not. We don't have to do the affordability test to determine if they've got affordability to take on additional debt. Everybody else, as we take their application, we have to go through the affordability test, and then that determines whether or not they have affordability. Maybe they can take on a loan to pay for up to 30% of the total project cost. So for those that bottom 30% of the income, they don't have to, it's all going to be 100% deferred loan for those folks. So what that means is that if that's about 30% of actually it's about 20% of all the 21, then the city money is going to be spread out over a smaller number of households. So it'll be only 17 households that the city money is spread out over. So 17.
To bring them up to income, so they fall in that affordability bracket, so it's giving them cash investment on their part.
Yeah, the city money is going to be used. It's leverage to get the grant, basically, is what it is. It's the city using your funds to take and leverage the ability to access more funds. If you didn't have any money in the game, your ability to access these funds would be a lot less, because it's so competitive that everybody who's playing this game has to put some money in. So your money coming in is really going to help you access the funds from the start. So did that answer your question about the 17 or the?
Byron, if
Yeah.
I could, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
I think what you told us is for folks that are the lowest of the low income, that under 30%, they're eligible without any other testing, and they're going to get deferred money.
Absolutely.
The folks that are above 30% will have access to that deferred money as well, but they will also have access to a loan that's the city money. The city money would be a loan that would be 0 interest over 10 years. That's that portion on the first page here. Right. So if you think about it, those folks with under 30% have full access. The folks over 30% have access, but then they also have access to these loan dollars that they would pay back because they can afford to pay some back based on their eligibility, right?
So if they need more than 25,000, this 85,000 is used to supplement?
It doesn't tie necessarily to the 25,000, Roger. It really depends more on their affordability. And so there's a ratio that would be put together for the city's loan money as compared to the deed money that we're talking about.
Right, but if we take 21 times 25,000, that's the 525.
Yeah.
So we're saying we're going to have to help 21 households.
Yep.
And then
That's the target.
They can vary, and then like we're talking.
Yep. And it could be more households potentially, depending on what the need is.
Right, and depending on if we use
How much money we
right,
have.
Right.
Right. We're going to use up all those resources.
So let's say it's the 21. That still only totals the 525. So how does that 85,000 come in there? Because the person that is at 60%, right, has more affordability, so they can access the city funds.
Right.
But if we take, what we're presented, they can access the 25,000 still.
Roger, the 598 is the amount of money really that we're accessing through deed.
Okay.
So it's the 525, it's the 73,500. Those are the numbers that equal the $598,500.
Right.
Right,
Right.
so the deed resources are gonna cover 21 and the administrative costs. Your resources are to match above and provide for that loan. And that's been the primary council discussion has been, do you want to forgive that, don't you? How we've assembled this here has been that would be loaned and have to be repaid at 0 interest.
But, so the 85,000 is above
Yes, sir.
that
Yep. That's
25,000 if it's needed. I'm taking the maximum example here.
Sure. Sure.
That's available.
It could be above that, but it could also be less than 25. We could have homes that need less than 25, but we have to bring a match to the table for those folks above that 30% to access the dollars.
Okay, so it's still going into households?
Yes, sir.
It's just not presented in the deed money?
Correct, sir.
Okay.
Yep.
As a point of reference, the 30% for a family of 4 would be $25,100 for household income.
Household income?
So
Thanks, Russ.
we had the city commitment in the memo, and what we talked about before, at 100,000. But now we're saying, and we were talking 25 units at 4,000. But now we're talking 17 units at 5,000 for the $85,000 commitment?
Yes.
Yes.
So 17 that
17,
have expressed in, or that you're pretty confident of.
Right,
or-
and it's just a calculation we did based upon the fact that when we do all our projects, about a fifth of those, about 20%, occupy that 30% or less of median
Right.
income. So we know that, and so everybody else is the ones who would be accessing your funds, and that would be the 17 households.
So we are not, with this resolution, which I guess I should read a little more in depth. So in this, are we committing to 85,000 or 100,000?
If I might?
Yes,
Because
go ahead.
I saw
Yeah.
100 in the resolution.
Yep.
Yeah, if I might, yeah,
Please.
we don't know how much we're actually going to need.
Right.
And because it's there and because it's already been, if you've already talked about it, that's up to you, I guess. But my point is that two things could happen. One is that we could use all the money up and maybe we still have lots of houses that still need to be done in the secondary target area, the primary target. But you can access additional funds if you go after it again next year, if you show that you used up all the money and you met your goals. So you may just leave it the way it is so that that money continues to be available.
I guess my question was, Byron, was this example that you gave us,
Yep.
you're using 85,000.
Right.
So actually, we're committing to 100,000.
We are committing to 100,000.
So then the actual total investment is 698,500.
It could
Could
be.
be.
We can't say for sure. It's
Well-
really an up to amount.
Right, it's an up to amount, but
Right.
when we use that up to amount, and when we're doing an example like this, I would think, as long as we understand that we're committing to 100,000.
That was my other question.
Yeah.
That's the staff recommendation, and the plan has been to commit to $100,000. Again, you may
TIF.
not spend all of that.
Right.
TIF funds.
Correct, sir.
Go ahead.
I have one more. Do you need to say something?
Oh, no, don't,
Okay.
you go first.
And forgive me, because I probably wasn't part of the presentation. The B to me is large, so I want to understand, $3,500 per house, how you guys are earning that. Quick.
If I get, yeah, it's 15% of the total, and that's the most that we can ask for. And our records have shown over the years that it costs more than that to do these, and so that's the most we can ask for, so that's what we ask for.
So what are you doing for it, though?
Pardon me?
What are you doing?
The administration and
Oh,
the
yeah.
contractors and...
Yeah, okay, how much time do you have?
It's a quick version. Are you lining up contractors for the people,
Yeah,
to help the
absolutely.
citizens, those types of things?
From the beginning, we do the application intake. If we verify that you're income eligible, so that you're a qualified applicant. Once we found that out, we do an inspection of the home. We work with you to see if the things that you want to do are also the things that have to be done. We do construction management. We work with the homeowner to help them get bids, help them understand the bids, accept the bids. Before that, we do draw up scope of work so that you can actually get a qualified bid from several contractors and they're bidding on the same thing. During construction, we do construction inspections. Before anybody gets paid, there's a final inspection for that project, for that part of the project.
Help pull permits?
We help them pull permits if that's what our coordinator does. Everything from the
Okay.
start to the beginning, really.
Okay. So you're almost like the homeowner in the sense, but you're working with them that closely.
Like a general contractor,
Right.
but we know
Okay.
more about it than anybody does. So
Right,
we're
right.
really driving the whole thing.
Okay.
And then, in addition to that, project management, there's the overall administration, which means that we have to give accounting to the city and to the feds, to DEED, and they have to account to HUD, and there's reports and project closeout at the end. So it's
Sure.
really a lot
Sure.
of stuff. It's just amazing amount
Sounds
of work
intensive,
that
so-
goes into it.
Yeah, good, thank you. I wanted to understand,
Yeah.
since it's a large amount of money.
I'm glad you asked the question, because it's pretty easy to kind of skip over that at a public
Yes.
hearing, because you're limited to the basics.
Right,
Thank you.
right. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I was going to add, and I mentioned it in the memo, that when the target area was reduced on Deed's recommendation, there was the 3 homeowners that had indicated they had expressed interest. And Sheila House, as promised, had reached out from MVAC, and one of the families is interested in accessing other products that Minnesota Valley has available. The other one indicated they'd get back to them, and then the other homeowner did not return their contact. So I appreciate their outreach for that.
Yep. I appreciate the email. I got that email a while back here, and I appreciate that update on that. And that was the only point I wanted to make for people that do not qualify for this and are interested in this type of program or need help in some other ways. You guys are always available. You have other programs available.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yep. Renters, weatherization programs, they're doing some pretty impressive work.
All right? Roger?
Sorry, 2 more questions. If somebody is a landlord, are they able to access this program, or is it only homeowners?
Only homeowners.
And they have to live in the residence?
Owner occupied, yes, sir.
Okay, good.
We did have a rental owner program a year or 2 ago that we had a number of people access.
Yep, I remember that.
Yep.
And it says next summer. Sometimes people debate what next means.
This coming middle of June,
2019?
July. Yeah,
Yep,
2019, yes, sir.
Okay,
Gary? Anybody else have anything?
great. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Not the resolution authorizing execution of citizen participation plan and conflict of interest disclosure form and authorization submission of application of $600,000 in small cities development program funds to finance the rehabilitation of owner-occupied homes in targeted areas of the St. Peter community. Appears on pages 48 and 49. Is there a motion for approval?
Move the resolution, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Any other questions or comments? Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Pfeiffer.
Aye.
Councilmember Paris.
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson.
Aye.
Mayor Zimmerman.
Aye. Resolution is approved. Thank you both.
Mr. Mayor, if you could make arrangements to sign the signature page this evening, perhaps even, and Byron needs to get it submitted by the end of Thursday.
Thursday. The end of the day, Wednesday. That's fine.
Okay.
I stop down tomorrow morning and sign papers for after
See you on
tonight's
the way
action,
home.
so.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, we have an LRIP grant application for Township Road 361.
Mayor, members, you've talked about this one in the past, and in fact, you made application last year. This is a renewed application for LRIP, which stands for Local Road Improvement Program. And this is for 361st Street, which is this roadway that's owned by Oshawa and Traverse Townships. Essentially, this is doing the same thing you did on Gardner Road, which is now Jefferson Avenue. We're trying to access some state funds to improve this roadway to a hard-surfaced roadway. And we need your approval, a resolution supporting that. We have letters of support from Traverse and Oshawa Townships. We have a letter of support from the school district. We have a resolution of support, letter from support from Nicollet County as well. Again, you've utilized this process in the past. You've talked about this one. We anticipate, we're trying really hard to make sure we get these dollars for you, but we do need a resolution that supports that, and that's the requested action from you tonight. The resolution's on page 51 and 52.
Questions? We applied previously
Yes, we did.
for this site, or for this same
Yep.
location? Once, twice?
Once
Once.
for this location.
Okay.
So we've applied total of 2 previous times under this program. This would be the 3rd time in total.
Right.
Yep,
Okay.
and we're acting as the agent for both of the townships who share, it's kind of a 2/3, 1/3 from, on the length of the roadway.
Okay. Good questions? The resolution appears on page 51 and 52. There is a change in the middle of the resolution. It should say 2019 for the date. So therefore, the resolution of support and agreement to sponsor the Oshawa and Traverse Township pursuit of 2019 local road improvement program, funding from MnDOT, and the improvement of Avenue 361st Street, between Broadway and Traverse Road. Appears on 51 and 52. Is there a motion for approval?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Any questions now? Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Ferris,
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson,
Aye.
Mayor Zeman.
Aye.
Councilmember Pfeiffer.
Aye.
Resolution is approved. Next, we have a city assistance request by the ambassadors for St. Patrick's Day.
Yes, St. Patrick's Day, March 17th, parade beginning at 3 o'clock with the setup and getting ready for the parade to move along at 2:30. This would be along 3rd Street from Broadway to Mulberry Street, which is the customary parade route and length. Parade staging would be on North 3rd Street. The ambassadors provide you with a certificate of insurance of $1.5 million, which is your normal request, and then there'd be no parking restrictions along that parade route starting at 2:30. So what that really means is that once the parade is starting to be organized, no additional parking will be allowed in that area. If cars are there, we're not towing them out of there or anything, but we stop parking at that point. You'll see a letter that's included in your packet on page 54 from the committee, parade committee, from the ambassadors, and the resolution providing our assistance, which is barricades and those kind of things, on page 55.
Questions? The resolution authorizing city assistance for St. Patrick's Day Parade appears on page 55. Is there a motion for approval?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Some questions, comments now?
Mr. Mayor, my
Yes.
understanding is they had the largest crowd so far last year.
Yeah, I know it was big. I realize that. This year maybe snowbanks will hold people away or,
There's not too many of them on 3rd Street.
I know.
Thanks to our city crews.
Yeah, there you go. Call the roll, please, Bart.
Councilmember Johnson,
Aye.
Mayor Zeman.
Aye.
Councilmember Pfeiffer.
Aye.
Councilmember Ferris.
Aye.
Resolution is approved. Next up, we have a position description change. Todd?
Mayor, members, actually, we have 3 of them that we're looking at. Let me first deal with the electric superintendent. And so, your Public Works Director and I are recommending that you make modifications to the electric superintendent job description. We have not had this position filled. We would not be planning to fill the electric foreman job position. We talked about this at your workshop, and I can illustrate a number of the reasons why we believe we should go in this direction. And those are illustrated in the packet starting on page 56. Frankly, we need someone, at least from Pete's and my perspective, that's a tweener that can do some of those things that we expect foremen to do, but can also do some of the things that we expect a superintendent to be able to do. With the advancements in technology within your system, the activity that goes on, frankly, some of the savings that we believe that we can achieve through additional management of your load, we believe that this is a valuable position for you. By approving the resolution that's included in your packet on page 62, this would update the electric superintendent job description and provide opportunity for us to recruit. The second item here is to set the authorized staffing level. Currently, the authorized staffing level is 1 foreman and 4 electric linemen. This would set the new staffing level at 1 electric superintendent and 4 licensed linemen. And that's the basis for the resolution on page 62. I'm happy to answer questions that you might have.
All right. Questions?
We've discussed this before.
Yeah, we discussed this in pretty good detail, I guess, in our last workshop, or the one before. If there are no questions, the resolution adopting updated electric superintendent job description and modifying electric utility authorized staffing appears on page 62. Is there a motion for approval?
Move
So-
the resolution, Mr. Mayor.
Second?
Any questions now? Call the roll, please.
Mayor Zeman.
Aye.
Councilmember Pfeiffer.
Aye.
Councilmember Paris.
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson.
Aye.
Resolution is approved. Next.
Next, we have 2 job descriptions. Both of these are in what we would currently call your computer department now, but we'd like to change that the terminology and information technologies. And so we currently employ a computer services technician and a computer services technician 2. It's not that we wouldn't employ these folks any longer, it's that we're modifying the job description. And I think we're modifying it in a couple of different ways, one of which is to better reflect what we have going on currently and the changes that have occurred over the last, frankly, decade since we've made significant changes to these job descriptions. As you may note, and as I've described previously, I've kind of used this example where we used to have these very closely aligned and had a very narrow band of activities. We see those activities expanding, changing as our network grows, as our use of software grows, as our use of SCADA system goes, as our use of social media grows, as the importance of our website continues to expand and see growth. And so the job descriptions that you see here reflect that. We're really putting somebody in the chair of taking care of your hardware and your networks and your SCADA operations and special systems. We have someone in the other chair, which is really working very, very closely integrated with some of your very important systems within the finance department, including your general ledger accounting stuff, and maybe even more importantly than that, your utility billing and how that all gets integrated along with the social media and, frankly, SPPA. And so these job descriptions, I think, more clearly reflect what's going on and provide a better understanding moving forward, and I hope sets us up into the future. So as we see turnover in these positions, frankly, we use these job descriptions to shop for people. We use those as the basis for the kind of skills and talents and gifts that we look for. And I think this better represents the description of those. As you know, we have folks, these positions change over from time to time, although one of our folks has been in this position, I think, now over 30 years, and one, more than a dozen years. But we do anticipate in the future that they're not going to be here forever. And so we want to make sure that we have the right things in place for them and a good job description. This does not entail any change in wages. It does entail a modification in what used to be Computer Services Technician 2, which will now be Specialist, Information Technology Specialist. It does include a change in pay equity points so that they are both at the same level, rather than one up here and one a little bit down here. And so those are the major changes, Mayor and members. The job descriptions are included in your packet, and the resolution providing approval for them is on page, forgive me, I got to get there quick,
71.
71. Thank you very much.
Questions? Once again, we talked about this in our last workshop, and I don't think there was a lot of really changes or, discrepancies that we needed to do.
Information technology is one of those areas that has had, I think anyone could reasonably argue, a substantial amount of change. And the change in technology and application that you see cities using is really a driver in this. And that's really the biggest basis for change here.
Okay. Anyone? Question? Not. The resolution adopting updated position descriptions for information technology technician and information technology specialist appears on page 71. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved. Second.
Now, any questions? Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Pfeiffer.
Aye.
Councilmember Paris.
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson.
Aye.
Mayor Zeman.
Aye. Resolution is approved. Next up, we have a 2019 maintenance agreement for Community Spirit Park. Todd.
Mayor, remember, this agreement is substantially similar to the one-year agreement that you entered about a year ago with the school district for maintenance of the park. I can go into a lot of detail if you'd like to go into a lot of detail, but let me keep it to 3 or 4 primary issues. One of which is that the city owns space and the school district owns space within this. And really the amount of space that you own, the number of acres that you own at Community Spirit Park is very equal. The type of facilities, the kind of facilities, the use of facilities that we have is very similar in nature. And so you've had a shared use agreement previously, but this provides for the maintenance. And so really what we're doing is we're contracting here with the school district to provide for maintenance, and they're willing to pay their share of that maintenance. In most instances, what we see is a 50-50 split. Responsibilities related to costs and the maintenance of the facilities, again, will be shared. How we work together on this is very carefully, and many of you were in attendance at a meeting last Thursday night, which was a joint school district and city council meeting, where we talked about this, and Mark Bachman from the school district and Pete Moulton, your public works director, talked about our relationship, how we're trying to communicate the improvements that we can make, and frankly, a couple of areas where it just didn't work out so slick, and we're going to try and make it work out better. It's like any relationship that we have. There's always room for improvement, so we want to make sure that we're covering that. But by and large, this has worked very, very well. And I think it is what your community expects of you, and that you find efficiencies in working together to maintain facilities for their use. Again, this primarily relates or really relates to Community Spirit Park. This isn't about McGill Park or Jefferson or any of those. This is just Community Spirit Park. This is for a one-year agreement, and so you'll see the dates have changed. So this is the second one-year agreement. I anticipate that at some point in the future, we might have multiple year agreements, but 1 year to make sure that we're communicating and it forces us to be together. You will see, if you compare very carefully to the previous agreement, there have been some changes in the lists that we see about the maintenance costs and number of mowing and those kind of things are all estimates. We anticipate that each entity will share just a little bit under $40,000 in total cost to maintain that 100 and plus acres of facilities. So we think it's done very efficiently. Again, the documentation has been provided to you previously. The contract is included in your packet from page 74 to 76. Well, actually, it goes further than that. You can see other pages and addendums and exhibits to it. And the resolution is on the last page of your packet, on page 83.
Questions? Roger?
On the map that we have,
Okay?
the dark line that goes, just around the school,
Yes.
is that indicating that we have, if you're looking at the page, everything above that?
Yeah, I'm sorry, Roger, I don't have that. Well, yeah, I do. Barb got it on here. Thank you, Barb.
Excellent.
Did a great job. So it's the area on the bottom of the screen you're talking about there, Roger.
Correct.
So the area on the bottom of the screen or south of that dark line, that is meant to indicate the school proper. It is not the park.
Not park.
So the stuff north and east of that is the park. That's the area that we're talking about that this agreement includes. So we're not mowing the front yard of the school building,
Right.
as an example. We're mowing the park.
Right. I thought so. This covers the nice weather. What about the snow days? How does, anything with that? The parking lots?
No, we don't take care of the parking lots. The school district is responsible for their own parking lot, but we do work on the trail system there, which predominantly resides on the city portion, and we'd be doing that anyway. So while we don't plow every trail, we blow or plow some of the trails out there that are indicated, because we do see use on those during the winter months, during the snow-covered months.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, but we're just doing our city ones in that instance.
Correct. So we are not maintaining in that school proper area, if I can use that term. We're not maintaining those sidewalks or anything. I do have to tell you though, Roger, is that that is not part of this contract, but there are times with the school district where they've called for additional help because they don't have big enough equipment to move a snow pile. I mean, those kind of things we share and work together on.
Good neighbor stuff.
Yeah, and aren't a part of this and aren't contemplated as part of this agreement.
Sure. Okay. Oh, one more question. The amounts that we sing, is that a not to exceed, or is that just an estimate?
This is really an estimate, Roger, so it is not a not to exceed, but it has changed based on our experience from last year.
And it depends on the weather, too.
It will depend dramatically on the weather and a few other factors as well, but yeah, the weather has a dramatic impact as to how many times we mow. Certainly the fertilizer and those kind of things we're likely to do no matter what the weather, but yeah, this is our best estimate.
Okay.
Yeah.
Other questions? Excuse me. The resolution approving execution of maintenance agreement for 2019 between the city and the school district 508 for Community Spirit Park appears on page 83. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Any more questions? Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Paris,
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson,
Aye.
Mayor Zeman,
Aye.
Councilmember Pfeiffer.
Aye.
Resolution is approved. That concludes our new business. Next up, we have reports. We are short a couple of 3 members here tonight. 2 of them are in Washington, D.C. for the
APPA.
APP. I put SP. No, I did have APPA.
There you go.
Which is the, you tell,
American Public Power Association.
which we're part of through SIMPA and MUA, which is the Minnesota Municipal Utilities.
Yes.
Right? Okay. Acronyms are something to behold some days. This last week, Todd and I were met with the Housing Commissioner.
Jennifer Hope.
Yeah, Jennifer Ho on Wednesday, Thursday at Solace Apartments, and she had been over, I think, to Mankato, North Mankato, earlier in the day, and spent a little time there with her, and I didn't hear how the tour of the city went afterward, but
We did tour some of your other housing. She's very, very interested in the single-family housing developments that you've done, Nicollet Meadows, Washington Terrace, and of course, Trappers Green.
okay. And then the only other thing I have is I want to thank the streets and whoever else in the city is involved with clearing the snow during very trying times. It has been quite an effort, and I'll be honest, I have not heard one negative thing. I'm sure there's probably some out there, negative feelings about it, but all I've heard is positive things on the job they're doing. So I want to thank the streets department and all the other departments that get involved during these trying times. And you're up next, Todd.
Mayor, members, just a couple of ones. As you may recall, last week we had a joint meeting with the City Council and the school board, so I thought I'd leave it open if anybody had any comments. We talked about 3 primary issues. Demographics, we talked just a little bit about and alerted the council and the school board to an event that's going to happen on May 2nd. Excuse me. We talked a little bit, or quite a little bit about what you just approved, the maintenance agreement on Community Spirit Park. Had some good discussion on that. And then I think, I don't know if a majority of the time, but the largest portion of time was spent on discussion about the potential for a school resource officer. So there's certainly a lot more work to do on that discussion. That was really a very preliminary discussion. But we take the opportunities that we can when you're all together to talk about some of those things. And then we'll see where it goes from there. And you should expect updated information as more evaluation is done and more thought gets put to that. But wanted to make sure. So I don't know if anyone has any questions. Our goal will be to try and have a couple of these a year. We haven't been able to make that happen in the last few years, but that's certainly our goal for this year. And so stay tuned. We don't have one scheduled at this point, but we anticipate that there certainly will be another one. The last one that I have, I wanted to mention, and the mayor was gracious enough to talk about snow removal. We want to mention snow removal and sidewalk clearance. You got to have your sidewalks clear. So get out there, please, if you can. Lots of people depend on those sidewalks for lots of things. And so please making sure that your sidewalks are clear from edge to edge. And certainly if you're at a corner, I know it's a lot of extra burden, especially with how the snow gets pushed around sometimes. But we really do appreciate folks' cooperation on making sure their sidewalks and those corners are cleaned out. You know, if we do get calls or we are out doing enforcement, which is frankly supposed to start about 24 hours after snowfall ending, frankly, practically, sometimes it just doesn't happen that way. But when we are out doing enforcement, if you haven't gotten it done, the cost starts out at $75 minimum for us to come and make sure that your sidewalk is clean. So we really encourage you to get out there. You have a little bit of time to do that, so we'd really love to see you get out there. And one thing that I heard today, which I think was very wise, the sooner you get out there, the less hard it is. So it's easier to move. And so with the drifting that we've had, it's starting to get a little bit hard in some of those spots. So we'd encourage folks to get out there sooner rather than later. Mr. Mayor, that's all that I have for you tonight.
Todd,
Oh, yes, sir.
you might want to mention the hydrants again, too.
Oh, what a great idea. Yeah, we have in the hot sheet and other places asked folks if they have a fire hydrant on their property or near their property. Maybe it's a couple of properties down on Mabel's house that you go down there and help clean that out. Our crews have been out there and sent to serve crews, but there are over, I think it's 963 fire hydrants in town, some number like that, a very large number. So making sure that the fire hydrant that could serve you if you needed, getting that cleaned out is a benefit not just to you, but to your entire neighborhood. And so if you can help out with that, we really do appreciate that. Great idea, Jerry. Thank you.
Anyone else have anything else to add? If not, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
All in favor of adjournment, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. I hit it twice as hard.
If you break that, you have to pay for it, you know.